I'm posting 2 videos this week. This first one will have very minimal editing. The second one will have a little bit more, and it'll do my sort of normal video thing with a bunch of links and facts and screenshots. But for this first one, I, like I think a lot of you, went to one of the No Kings protests this previous weekend, and I had reached out asking to speak because they asked for speakers, and I'm a scientist, and so I figured, give it a shot. I got the okay, so I worked on what I was going to say, but our crowd was so much larger than we expected, and we didn't really have the amplification. We had to scrap it, which is a good thing. We were expecting around 200 people, and we ended up getting 910, which is really great. And so I did spend a bit of time on what I was going to say, so I'm still going to do that. I'm going to do that now in this video, which will be shorter. And then the next video that gets posted after this will be more of the traditional fare. I've changed a few things to reflect the reality of the situation, but generally this is what I would have said. Hello, I'm a research and development scientist working in food safety, and I wanted to talk to you because there's so much going on at any given point that it's really hard to keep track of what's happening. And so I wanted to sort of talk to you about what's happening in science in this country. But first, I wanted to say that if you're like me, since the election, you've had a rough time. It hasn't been great. There have been moments where you feel overwhelmed or where you feel like there's just too much happening and all bad and you're in a dark place. And sometimes you feel really alone. But I will say, having been at the No Kings rallies this previous weekend, I'm not feeling so alone because even in the small community in a red state where I live, we saw so many people out. Now, I know that, like I said, it's overwhelming and there can be some real difficulties in sort of following everything that's happening. And what I think is important, and the thing that I try to do, is I try to help communicate what's happening to other people for an area in which I can pay attention and have some visibility. And for me, that's science. But for you, that might be something else. That might be foreign policy. That might be something at the ag department. That might be something in the military or in Veterans Affairs or in any other part of the government. And so I think it's important that we all sort of work together and pick up that slack, because trying to follow everything is damn near impossible. And it's just really hard to do. It's hard on the person. It's hard on your time. And so with our limited time, we should focus on what we can and trust that others will focus on things so that we can all try to maintain some sanity, try to maintain some energy, but still have people on the lookout who will let us know when we really need to focus our energy and where we need to focus it. So, with that being said, let me give you an update on what's happening in science. Right now, HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services, run by RFK Jr., has cut a quarter of its workers, either through reductions in force, through firings, or through early retirements. They've lost some 20,000 people. And this includes every kind of role at the department that you can think of. This is scientists, this is communications people, this is support staff, this is statisticians. This is so much of that department. It's a quarter of what they had. Of the 80,000 that they started the year with, they are now down to 60,000. And what we also see is that some 1,400 grants have been rescinded, revoked, or canceled by this administration. And those grants largely focus on things like health disparities in minority communities. They focus on things like physical and mental health for LGBTQIA people. They focus on health disparities for mothers and infants and infant and maternal mortality rates. And all of these things focus on communities that this administration finds undesirable. They keyword search for things and then get rid of it, because those studies may have had a larger impact on people in those communities, even though, to be clear, they would have helped all of us. But they had a larger impact on communities that this administration doesn't like. And so they were cut. And we're also seeing that when they proposed their budget for the next fiscal year, RFK Jr. cut that budget, that already anemic Health and Human Services budget, by 25%. And what this means in real terms is that life-saving research will not be funded. Clinical trials will not start or continue. It means that new research generally will be depressed. It means that communication about health outcomes or data is going to stop or slow down. It means that we're getting less of what we've had, which has had a great impact on making us the greatest nation on this earth in terms of scientific innovation, because we fund it, because we care about it, because even when you would have back and forth between different administrations, what you would find is that we kept funding science because we all understood generally that it was important. But that stopped. And we also have to look at how he has removed the ACIP Vaccine Advisory Committee, has removed all of those members and placed on loyalists, people who will help toe the anti-vax line that RFK has clearly and openly had. And this will lead to a lower rate of vaccinations. This might lead to removal of vaccine recommendations, which means that healthcare insurances won't cover them, which means people won't get them, which means people will get more sick. To be clear, all of this means that people will get sick and die more often than they are now because of these changes, because of these cuts, because of this unilateral damage being done. And so you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? Well, something we found out the first time around was that one of the most effective tools to counter the propaganda we see was truth. It was objective truth. And very few things are as good at providing objective truth as science. And so you muzzle the scientists. You make them afraid to study things you don't like or to find results you don't like. And because of that, you now award funding to people who are loyal or who will push your agenda, and you cut it from other people. You make sure that things you don't want there to be data on, there isn't data on. And all of these cuts mean there will be less advancement and worse health outcomes for everyday Americans, but especially for those people that this administration has targeted. Minority communities, people of color, disabled people, the LGBTQIA communities. All of these people will face worse health outcomes. But every American will too. And so this is not just people you don't know. This is your family, your friends, your neighbors. It might even be you. And I know all of that sounds dire. And you're probably asking, what can we do? And that's the right question. And I think to find that answer, we just need to look a little bit at science itself. One popular myth that you'll see sort of across the spectrum is that people believe science is carried on the backs of individual titans. That it's people like your Einsteins or your Bohrs or your Watsons or your Curies, that these people come along and drag science forward drastically. And that they do this alone. Yes, these people do come along and they do make a big change, but what people don't see is the mountain of data collection and analysis and experimentation that got those people to the part where they could get to a new height. All that work from countless unnamed authors, unknown authors, led those people to achieve new things. Science is a collaborative endeavor to its core. It works only in groups. It works only when people work together and each person solves the problem in front of them, so that someone can come along, look at the big picture, and then solve the last little thing that makes everything make sense. And I think that's where we are. It's up to each of us to focus on what we can in front of us, to try and fix what we can to build community and to help people in that community, to protect the people we can, and to ensure that we, to the best of our ability and to the call of our conscience, do what has to be done to keep our country going. And I think what that means is that we have to put aside minor differences. You might not have my political beliefs. There are people who will be more to the left of me, to the right of me. There'll be centrists, progressives, liberals, leftists, conservatives, maybe, people who don't have all of the same beliefs about policy or about policy prescriptions that I do. And that's fine, because there's one thing that matters right now. And that core thing is that we understand that in America, we don't have kings. In America, power comes from the consent of the governed, not from the will of those doing the governing. That everything we do is done as a group, whether we like that or not. We do not have a king, no matter how much people want one or want to be one. We decided this question in the 1700s. We don't need to do that again. We are a nation of laws and rules and order, and we need to be that. It falls to all of us to stand for our values and to act in accordance with what we believe is right, to help others do the same, and to protect the people in our communities who are the most vulnerable. And it falls to all of us to make these coalitions and to work together, because that's the way we have power. One person does not rule this country. All people rule this country. Because in America, there are no kings. Thank you.